Is there anything left that you cannot do in animation? I mean, years ago we were talking about Sully's fur and the 3D and How to Train Your Dragon, and we've crossed so many sort of hurdles. Is there anything left you can't do?
You can't make them fast enough and cheap enough.
Yeah.
Right.
Sadly,
is that
it's
the
really
next
the
frontier?
process is
Yeah.
the process.
Yeah.
It's about speed now. You know,
The computers have gotten fast, but we're all still slow at
Yeah, right.
developing stories.
Right.
Yeah, and I think you want to hit that sweet spot. Like I've had schedules that were just too long. Like there's a sweet spot where like, I couldn't agree more. There are times when they come in and like you've run out of time. And you're actually getting grateful for that. Like if you step into a place with no boundaries, at first you're like, this is great, I can do whatever I want to do. And then pretty quickly you're like, I wish that I knew what to do. It's like every time I get a chance to actually do a drawing, you know, I put a big blank piece of paper down, I'm like, I can draw whatever I want. Yeah. Like 3 hours later, I'm still like drinking a Coke, I'm like, I can't decide what to draw.
There's too much. It can do too much. And what was I going to say? Sorry.
That's okay.
a computer could solve it. No.
Yeah, I know.
Look at your phone.
No, it can do so much, but still, you couldn't say, because I don't know, some of you guys, we've been doing this for a long time. I've been doing it for a long time. And if you'd asked that question 20 years ago, I would have told you, oh, it'll be great. We'll take the best aspects of like stop motion animation that looks photo real and like Disney's 2D cell animation that's so expressive and fluid, and we'll mix them together. It'll be great. And it's like, okay, yeah, we've been doing that for 15 years. That's been happening. But still, there are great challenges in what it takes to get these things up on the screen. Just the rigging. Every time you pitch a new idea to your technical staff, they look at you with their jaws slack. Like, what's he thinking? What did he have for breakfast? What where's he been? And then invariably, a week or two later, they come back and they go, you know what? We thought about this, and this is we could do this and this and this. But it still takes time. But I guess the answer is, the technology can do whatever you ask it. It's what you ask, and how big that gets.
I did one of the things they told us at the very beginning. They said, we can do anything, but we can't do everything. So you've got to decide on certain things. And we didn't know what we couldn't do until we were going down a list of things with the effects department. They're like, dust, fire, good, exploding rocks, excellent, water splashes, fantastic, tar. And they went, excuse me, tar, and like, yeah, tar. And they're like, how much tar? Is it going to be opaque or sticky? And they started asking like a million questions like, oh, we can't do tar. And so they're like, okay, we need tar. And so that was one of the things that they had to develop on the run. And by the end of the film, we had this really cool looking tar, which was actually a cloth simulation that they had gone in and modified. So now we have tar.
It's funny how it's not as sexy as we can't, we discovered how to do explosions and water and all these things. We had a similar issue with backpacks on furry characters. It's like, really, backpacks is now the thing? Everybody worked really hard and we did it, and you go watch, as I'm sure you guys know, you go to the wrap party and you're with all the crew and you're watching the scene, and suddenly an effect comes up and the whole crowd goes wild and claps, and it's the joy. It's what's so great about watching the movie with the entire crew is no other audience is going to do that. But yeah, it's like backpacks. Everyone's like, yeah, we did it.
When we first did our test of snow, it looked like packing peanuts. It was like, oh God, and to have but we need snow. We want them to integrate. They have to go in it, and then we want snow that blows like crazy, and then we want packed and then soft. And to develop that it was the thing of like, okay, and then they get all excited and they invent all these new things, and you get a little spoiled because they keep upping it.
They keep doing it.
But one of the things, we kept throwing cloth at them. We have more cloth in our movie than all the Disney movies combined, and we're just like, oh, and have her twirl, and then she'll wrap herself up in a drape, and they're like, huh, thank you, and you do get a little carried away sometimes because they do that. They say, we'll find a way,
It's very often that mixing of effects that makes the CG soups like, oh my gosh, like it's tar, it's a character I'm sure with fur in tar, like those, the backpack on fur. And for us, it was, we had these new characters, the evil minions, who had a lot of hair and big hair, and there was a ton of them. So how do you not have it collide? And we hadn't done that before because the regular minions, there were a lot of them, were very simple and just skin, which is easier to have standing next to each other. So it's that combination of crowd animation, fur, whatever it is, that's where it very often gets into new territory.
And it can be fun to challenge them, and they respect it. I wanted to do part of the idea for Epic is I wanted to be places you hadn't seen before and places you couldn't do any other way. So if there's going to be a big battle sequence that kind of starts the story, I thought, where wouldn't you have that? It would be like on a lily pond, like on lily pads, and it would be beautiful, and there'd be flowers around. And so we boarded it. Oh, that's so cool! And we started writing and getting it made. But then, when the tech guys come on, it's like, well, the lily pads are going to be on water. They're going to be floating on water. And they're like, so what happens when the characters walk on the pads? Well, it pushes the pad down, and then the pad, pushes the water, and the water floats around, and then it pushes the other pads up and down. So there are guys in there trying to figure out the little meniscus of water that comes up on the lily pad, and how the water goes between everything, and how you see the roots go down between. It's the stuff that makes this so nerdy and great.
All those layers of complexity.
Yeah, it's all like if you take a picture of a pond, you see the reflections of the sky and the things floating on it and through it, and the shadows of things on the ground underneath it, and they're all there with their notes. And
I think that's what makes animation so overwhelming, is that you watch the stages from the story sketch, then when you see that final shot, and sometimes it's 4 months for like a shot from start to you see that final shot, and it's so organic, and it's just doing that. And I'm newer to animation, and for me it's like I'm like, oh, it blows me away. Because they just keep pushing and pushing, and you add the effects, then you add the lighting, then you add you have the tech anim, and you add it all, and you always have to anticipate what it's going to be, because you never get to see it till it's actually done, and then it's too expensive to go back. So, but it blows me away.
It's so worth living for.
Yeah.
It's so worth looking forward to this stuff, because you think it up sometimes years in advance, and then when it's finally up on the screen, you just can't believe it. It's so nothing's better than post-production in animation. Nothing's better.
Well, did you feel like you really got what was in your head up on screen? It's like, no, not at all. It's way better than what is in my ridiculously simple head. Like, letting really giving the team the spirit of what you want, and then letting them come up with it and really push it. And it's always such a surprise of like, oh my God, that looks so much better than what I could have imagined.
I would say for me though, just to on the opposite end, because I guess this is where I come from. My favorite part of doing this is the story reel, because that is like that is the dirty where it starts as a bunch of drawings, and I think that's where you're sort of. You don't have the bells and whistles of the CG, the final render. You're like, is it going to work as a bunch of crude drawings? Mm-hmm. And I think if you can get in your head that it feels like it's going to work in that form, the rest is cream cheese. It's sort of, I mean, that for me is the most exhilarating part. I love that element of it.
I love getting sucked into the reels.
Yeah.
When it's trying to act like a movie, like a grown-up. It's just the drawings, but then you get into a sequence where it pulls you in, and you go, okay, now don't be fooled, because there's the stuff that's coming up is even less finished than this. So don't let it fool you. We're just practicing here.